The last month or so, I've covered more obscure consoles for the tutorial series, but every once in a while, you kind of just want to go back and play something familiar, maybe from your childhood or when you were growing up in high school, something that you played a lot, or maybe you want to discover some hidden gems on a console that you thought you knew very well. Well, finally, today on Unbroken Software Studio Tutorials, I'll show you how to get the SNES up and running in LaunchBox and Retroarch. So today, I'm going to kind of dial it back for a minute. These tutorials, for the most part, I kind of assume that you've been watching the tutorials, that you've kind of started watching them when I started creating them, and you've just kind of watched throughout the weeks and the months and just have picked up on everything, and everything you learned from every episode you just apply to other systems, and that you've been able to get all the systems that you want up and running and ready to go. However, I know that some users haven't seen the other tutorials, or you may not know how to apply what you've learned in other places to other systems. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of dial it back a little bit and not start from exactly square one, but I'm going to walk you through almost every process and a couple of extra processes at the end to kind of get everything up and running and going the way that you would like it to go. So first things first, like most other tutorials, let's go to Tools, Import, and ROM Files. Now, there are two ways to import your ROM files, either by the Add Folder option or the Add Files option. But if you've been playing around with emulators previously, and previous emulators that you have used made save states or save files in with your ROM files, if you use the Add Folder option, it will try to import all of the files in any folder and subsequent subfolders. So if you have the game file and two save files associated with it, LaunchBox will try to import all three files. So in this case, let's go ahead and use Add Files. If it is a folder that just has ROM files, no save files, you've just gotten or acquired your ROMs, then you can go ahead and use the Add Folders option. But personally, I like using the Add Files option. So for the Super Nintendo, there are two file extensions that we need to add. One is the .sfc file extension, and then the other one is the .smc file extension. So on the top right where it says search ROMs, we're going to type in quotations asterisk .sfc end quotations, and that is going to filter the folder and any subfolders and look for just the files ending in .sfc. So we'll click a game, Control A to highlight them all, and then we'll hit open. Once it processes those files, let's go ahead and add files again. We're going to replace the S and F with S and M. Well, I guess just the F. Then we're going to click another game, Control A to highlight them all, and we're going to open these as well. Once that is done processing, we're going to click Next. Platform for imported ROMs, we're going to click this drop-down box, and we're going to go to the S's. And right here it says Super Nintendo Entertainment System. So we're going to click that. And then Next. The default emulator that I choose to use is Retroarch. You may like or prefer another SNES emulator, but I believe that Retroarch is one of the better options when it comes to most emulators. So either click Add or Edit if Retroarch isn't popping up. Click Add and type in Retroarch in the emulator name here. And if you don't have Retroarch installed, when you type it in, the button here where it says click here to download Retroarch should pop up. Go ahead and click that button. It will take you to the buildbot.libretro.com website. Now, personally, I prefer to keep up with the nightlies. So you can keep up with the nightlies if you want, or you can do the stable releases. So either go to stable or go to nightly. I'm going to go to nightly. And we're going to go to Windows. Now, if your Windows is Windows 7, 8, 8.1, or 10, 32-bit, you're going to click on the x86 box here. If you have the 64-bit version of Windows 7, 8, 8.1, or 10, you're going to click on the x86 _64. To find out exactly what version of Windows you have, you can go to the control panel, all control panel items, and go to System, or in Windows 8 and 10, right click down here and go to System. Or if you have the My Computer or this PC icon on your desktop, you can right click it and go to Properties. And right here where it says system type, it will say 32-bit operating system or 64-bit operating system. Again, if it says 32-bit, you're going to want the x86 installer. And if you have a 64-bit operating system, you're going to want the 64-bit installer. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the list where it says Retroarch.7z, and it should have the latest date over here on the right, and it should be the biggest package on this list. So click on this, and it's going to ask you to download this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this in my Retroarch folder. Now, personally, I like to put the dates on these folders because that makes it a lot easier for me to sort my installs. So I have a Retroarch 42316 right here. I'm going to go ahead and append the Retroarch 7-zip here, and I'm just going to change the 423 to 5116. And then I'm going to right click and extract to Retroarch 5116. So it'll extract it to its own folder. With the new folder here, I'm going to go into my old install. I'm going to hold my control button down. I'm going to click on my retroarch.cfg down here. I'm going to click on my config folder up here. I'm going to click on my system folder here, and I'm going to click on my cores folder here. And then I'm going to hit Control C to run the copy command. And I'm going to go back to this folder, and then I'm going to hit Control V in this folder to run the paste command. You can use the right click copy and then the right click paste options if you want, but I just use keyboard shortcuts because it's quicker for me. When it gets to the end of that process, you'll see here, replace the file in the destination. So it wants to replace any existing files with the files that you are copying. I'm going to go ahead and click replace the file. And that's all I do every time that I want to update Retroarch. I just copy these 4 files into the new install, so that way my cores are brought over, even though I'll run the online updater afterwards anyways to update those cores in case they need it. But it's just habit to copy the cores. I copy my config files because this is where all my custom specific system configs are saved. Of course, I carried over my system folder because that's where all my BIOS and save files are. And I carried over my retroarch.cfg because that's my regular config file for Retroarch. With Retroarch downloaded and all the previous files carried over, if you have an older install of Retroarch, I'm going to go ahead and click the Browse button here. We're going to browse to where we have our new Retroarch folder, and we're going to double click on the retroarch.exe. Over here in the associated platforms, if you've never set anything up before, there should be a small list of items that are pre-populated for you. Now, if you want to change whatever core that system is using, you can double click an existing item to edit it, or you can scroll down to the bottom and click an empty box here to create a new line. We've recently just updated the Super Nintendo Entertainment System name on the database. So the default Retroarch associated platform name may still be the old SNES associated platform name. So find the SNES in this list, double click it, and change that to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. From there, I also don't remember the default core that we use, but leave the -L parentheses cores / and replace the DLL portion with bsnes _balanced _libretro.dll and end quotations. Make sure to check the default emulator box as well. Now, if you see this in the future, we are going to very soon redo the default command lines and the suggested emulators in LaunchBox. Currently, they're a little outdated. I myself am going to go through and update them. So if you are viewing this tutorial at a later date and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System associated platform is already there, Then the bsnes balanced underscore libretro.dll should also be there. If both items are there, you can go ahead and skip this. If you are watching this before we update it, then make sure to edit and plug that information in. We're going to click OK, and the choose emulator Retroarch should be here. We're just going to click next. Use the files in their current location. We're going to download metadata from the LaunchBox games database and from Wikipedia. Next. We're going to make sure all these checkboxes are checked and then click next. If you don't have an Emu Movies account or you've never logged in before, this should pop up and ask you to log in. Create an account or log in with your existing account. And then these checkboxes should pop up. If you have an Emu Movies premium account, do note that at the bottom, all of these video categories will show up. If you don't have an Emu Movies premium account, these video boxes shouldn't be there. If you would like to download the video from Emu Movies, go on over and purchase a premium account from them. And when you go to download the metadata or you go to update your existing games to download new metadata, the video boxes should show up. We're going to click the select all button, and personally, I'm going to prioritize LaunchBox and Wikipedia, so I am not going to check this box. However, if you prefer what Emu Movies offers, click this box, and where they have data available, it will choose the Emu Movies options first, and then fill in any gaps that Wikipedia or the LaunchBox games database can fill in. Personally, I prefer the reverse of that, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. We're going to click next, and then next again. It's going to parse the list of games, and if there is a game in here that you don't want to add, just click on it and then press delete on your keyboard. Otherwise, if you want to import everything, leave this list as is and click finish. At the bottom, a bar will pop up and show you that it is downloading metadata and images and parsing through all of your games. When it is done, LaunchBox is going to kind of do a quick refresh, and all of your box art is going to start popping in slowly. This process is dependent based on your CPU. So if you have a slower CPU or you have a ton of programs open, the LaunchBox cache is going to go a little bit slower. So if you have a slower system or a system that is consistently under heavy use, I would suggest leaving it overnight and every once in a while scrolling through so that LaunchBox can start to cache the images. Once you have no images popping in for that system, that's how you know all of your images are currently cached in LaunchBox. So with that said, let's right-click a game and open Retroarch. If you just downloaded it for the first time, you will see this security warning dialog. It is safe to ignore it, and I'm going to uncheck the box always ask before opening this file. Oh, that is new. My LaunchBox was pink previously, but I actually like blue a lot, but what the... Okay, that's some liveness, because I just updated Retroarch in front of you guys. I'm seeing some new features. Or changes. Seriously, my LaunchBox was pink, like literally an hour and a half ago. I totally like blue a lot better though, so I approve of this change. Either way, let's go on down to Online Updater. You can navigate LaunchBox with your arrow keys, and then let's press X on our keyboard to go forward, and Z also goes backwards in the menu. But we'll press X on Online Updater, and we'll go to Core Updater. So if you don't have any cores downloaded or you want to update your SNES core, let's go on down to the S's. There are a couple of cores that you can choose from, as you can see from this list. However, the core that has 100% compatibility with the SNES is the bsnes accuracy core. However, this requires a CPU of at least 3 gigahertz. This is a very CPU intensive core. It runs everything perfectly, according to the bsnes developer, which, by the way, bsnes is now called Hygan, Higan. So if you see Hygan around, note that that's just the kind of evolution of bsnes. bsnes used to be just to emulate the SNES, but he updated it to Hygan when he started to expand to other systems. So do note that bsnes accuracy, according to the developer, should have 100% compatibility with every single SNES game. bsnes Balanced should also have the same compatibility rate, but it performs some extra speed hacks in order to get bsnes Balanced to run on a slightly weaker system. And if you have a very outdated or weaker system, or a smaller media PC that you didn't pump a lot of money into, bsnes Performance performs a lot of speed hacks in order to get the performance down. Do note that if you also download Hagen, that you don't have the choice between accuracy, balanced, or performance. You only have accuracy as a choice, so please do keep that in mind. But on the bsnes Balanced option, we're going to press X. You can test the other cores if you want. Like, I believe the bsnes C++98 core runs Star Fox at a perfect frame rate, at 30 or 60 frames instead of the 12 or 15 that it currently runs at. However, if you want a classic SNES feel, bsnes Balanced is your way to go. So that is the only core I will be downloading. So with the option set in the associated platform, to look for the bsnes Balanced core and Retroarch carried over or set up, double-clicking a game should launch Retroarch with the game that you have chosen. There we go, Crystal Beans. Now, when the game is open, we're going to press F1 on our keyboard to open the Retroarch menu in game. Where it says load configuration, it should say just retroarch.cfg. However, we're going to press the button save new config. We're going to close Retroarch. We're going to navigate to where we have Retroarch downloaded. We're going to go to the config folder. Remember when I carried this folder over? This is where that option saves our config files. So Retroarch has named my SNES specific config this here. Normally it names it after the core that you have loaded, but I don't know why it does this. So we're going to click on the config file. We're going to press F2 to highlight the whole item. We're going to make sure we got the .cfg in there as well. And then we're going to press Control-C to copy this name here. Back in LaunchBox, we're going to go to Tools, Manage Emulators. We're going to scroll down to Retroarch. We're going to double click on it. We're going to go back to the associated platforms list, and we're going to go down to where it says Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Double click the command line parameter here, and then you're going to add this command line if you want. -C, quotations, config /, and then with the option looking like that, you're just going to press Control-V to paste in the name and end quotations. Now, if you don't want to load a custom config, you don't have to, but you only put the -C command when you have created a custom config. If you try to input that -C command, it will crash Retroarch. Retroarch will try looking for a config file that doesn't exist. So only add these commands if you have a custom config file. So now when you load Retroarch and you press F1, it should say load configuration and your custom config file for bsnes Balanced. Let's go on up to the quick menu and press X. We're going to go down to the shaders option and press X. We're going to go to the load shader preset and we're going to go to shaders_GLSL. Now you can play around with many of the shaders that are available here. If you want shaders to kind of bend your pixels and make them smooth, you can choose XBR, or if you want scan line shaders, I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but there are other scan line shaders to kind of give you that scan line look. But personally, let's go to the retro folder. And I personally love the pixelate.glslp shader. If you press F1 and if you look at the game, you kind of see that it's a little blurry. The resolution that I have currently set in Windows mode is a lot bigger than what the SNES natively displays. Realistically, if you click Window, Scale, and go to ×1, that's what the internal resolution of the SNES is. So when I go to Window and scale it up to ×4, naturally it gets blurry. But I love pixel art. I love sharpness. I love to be able to see my pixel art in full glory. So I'm going to press X on the pixelate.glslp file. I'm going to go down to the shader scale. I'm going to press left on my key to make it ×5, and then I'm going to hit the apply shader changes. Now back in game, now you can see this text is crisp and you can read it, and this title screen is now very clear and you can see what's going on. Yeah, this is how I prefer my 2D games to look, especially when, as you could see, the internal resolution is very small. So if you want to full screen it to a big TV, or if you just want it to be like ×4 or ×5, those shaders will help immensely. Now press F1 again to open this menu, press Z a couple times to get back to this screen, and make sure you click Save Current Config. If you don't save your current config and you close Retroarch, it will close without making any saves. So you'll have to redo all of these settings again. Press right on your keypad, and let's go down to Input. Press X. Let's go down to the Input User 1 Binds and press X again. Now, personally, I have my PS4 controller plugged in, and I have a program called Input Mapper, and you can download this from their website. Just Google Input Mapper. Now, currently, I don't have my controller plugged in through USB. I don't use it wireless, though. You can use it wirelessly if you want. I'm going to plug my controller in. You can't see it because it's on my other screen, but a blue message box came up on the bottom where it says Controller 1 connected. And as you can see, it shows up here in the list. And over here, it says that it is using shared mode. Unfortunately, there's something, nothing I can do about that. Unplugging and plugging it back in should reconnect it. But you want Input Mapper to say that it is using the profile and exclusive mode. There we go. I closed Retroarch and then it was popping into exclusive mode. So if you have Steam or other programs open that want to take control of your controller, close them and then try plugging it back in. And once it says exclusive mode, you're good to go. So back here, it'll say user 1 device index, X input controller. That's my PS4 controller. So now that it's plugged in, I can navigate with my controller around the UI. Now, if you do have this set up, or it doesn't automatically find your controller, press left and right here, and you can cycle through your currently connected controllers. So I have a generic USB N64 controller that I use with Mupin and Retroarch. So normally I would come in here to the user 1 device index when I have Mupin loaded, and I would change it to the driver for that controller. But if you're using a 360, an Xbox One, a PS3, or a PS4 controller, they should all be using the X input controller drivers. Not to mention, those 4 controllers automatically get found in Retroarch, and you do not have to assign any of the buttons to most of the emulators. Some emulators you may want to edit, but for the most part, they all use those 4 controllers natively and automatically assign the buttons. So that is a big boon to using Retroarch. When you make those changes, make sure to save current config. I cannot stress that enough. One more thing back on the settings tab, let's go down to retro achievements. We're going to check the enabled box. We're going to go back, then we're going to go down to the user item here. And then we're going to go to the accounts tab in here. And then there's the retro achievements selection. I'm not going to go any farther because I don't want to show you guys my username and my password. But if you go to retroachievements.org and create your account, you can get retro achievements for games on systems like the Mega Drive and Genesis, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, NES, and the PC Engine. Now, currently, they're only looking to do this for 2D systems, as those are a lot easier to interpret and code the achievements for. 3D systems are a lot more complicated. But this is the current list of consoles, and of course, this can get expanded in the future, and is integrated into Retroarch. So when you create your account, come in here, put your username and your password in, and it will log you in every time you launch a game. Speaking of which, when you launch a game, it'll tell you in the bottom left if this game has achievements or not. This game doesn't feature achievements, so no one has created achievements for this game. But if I go to something a little bit more popular, like Breath of Fire 2, it didn't tell me that. Actually, it's telling me fly to the moon, make township fly. Am I unlocking achievements on accident? Well, there you go. I'm apparently unlocking achievements, and it tells you when you're getting achievements. Actually, if I go to my retroachievements.org account, it might even show them. Yeah, I've just earned a couple more achievements. I don't know how. I literally just turned on the game. Yep, there we go. Sentai Brad has earned Fly Me to the Moon in Breath and Fire 2. don't know. But that is how that works. So you also have those options as well. Another quick website that I want to point out for everybody is romhacking.net. And you can download ROM hacks and translations from here and use IPS or BPS patching to patch your games. So if you want to... say if you want to, play The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, but you want to use the ROM hack Zelda starring Zelda 2. I don't know what this means, but you could go in here, you could click the download button, download the patch your Link to the Past ROM, and play as Zelda, apparently, in Link to the Past instead. This is kind of one of the more dorky ones, but there are plenty of awesome ROM hacks, and of course, Japanese to English translation patches, and Japanese or English to any other language that you may speak. There are plenty of patches on here that I've seen games go from English to Czech, Greek, Italian, French, Polish, Spanish. I've seen lots of languages get added for games. So if you don't natively speak English or you don't natively speak a language that a game is in, there might be a fan translation for it. Either romhacking.net or the translation group's website. You can go there and find those patches there as well. And there you go, guys. That is a little bit longer and more in-depth how to do with the SNES and LaunchBox through Retroarch. My name is Brad, and if you guys liked this tutorial and it helped you get your systems up and running, please leave us a thumbs up with the thumbs up button right below this video, or subscribe to us for more videos, tutorials, and shows in the future. If I didn't cover anything adequately or I glossed over something a little bit and you want something explained a little bit further, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Jason and myself will be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys may have for us. If you liked the sound of my voice or you like what I am doing, a link to my channel will be in the description below. I do lots of gaming content over on my channel, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, please give me a subscribe as well. I would greatly appreciate it. Remember, freaks and geeks, to play more games, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day.